Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, my YouTube video. If you enjoy this video, then you just, I don't know, I friggin' don't have any words. But today we're gonna be starting off from the beginning of the research points all the way up. So all the way up to the Sea Dragon. Now, that does not include ISS. So it only includes manned, not including ISS stuff. So it's only gonna be that's MIR. So manned. Yeah, so we're just gonna ignore any ISS for now. Let's start with the Goddard 1. Launched in 1926, the Goddard 1 was an experimental rocket constructed by an American inventor and Professor Robert H. Goddard. It was the first liquid-fueled rocket ever, and marks the beginning of modern rocketry. We're going to launch it. As you can see, it's a very small rocket, not really that effective, but we're going to launch it. And it will only go about 55 meters in the air and then fall back down. But we then have the V2. The V2, or technically A4, rocket used by the Germans near the end of World War II to target British cities. Wernher von Braun and his team, who designed the rockets, later became influential in the United States rocket programs. So we have the rocket. Let's just launch it as someone that is not our group. We might have to get some other things, like missile, Iron Dome defense system, just in case. So we're gonna launch this at, what about this area? So we're gonna track the rocket. This is actually a missile, so it will actually land, go to its target, and then immediately drop down on its target and explode. That will completely miss its target entirely. One of the two will happen. Anyway, that would be the end of the first rocket. The next rocket would be the RTV-A2 Hirok. The RTV-A2 Hirok high altitude rocket was an early attempt by the U.S. Air Force to create a rocket. Funding was cut, so only 3 were ever flown. Alrighty, so let's launch it. I cannot speak today, I swear. It's not a rocket this time, but it does make it partially into space. As the orbit, the normal orbit in this game is just 9,000 meters in the air. As long as you make it above or near it, you will make it into orbit. This only makes it into like suborbit levels, I'd say. And then it will just fall back down and then crash. Oh wait. Moving on to the Viking rocket. So after World War II, the United States began experimenting with rockets. The Viking rocket was the result, and the Viking 1 was launched in 1949. We have the Viking rocket. It will now fly up into the heavens and probably come back down or won't come back down. We will have to see. So as you can see, it flown back down and crash landed. Or something. Now moving on to the R-7 Sputnik. In 1957, the USSR launched the Sputnik 1 satellite with an R-7 rocket. kicking off the space race with the United States. Sputnik 1 became the first artificial satellite. The R-7 family of rockets is still in use by Russia, making it the longest used family of rockets. We have the R-7. Let's launch it. This time, we actually have something that will make it into space. And yes, this does enter the atmosphere. It stays up though for about a few seconds and then immediately falls back down. I will spoil that for you because it's really not that interesting. It's just kind of a bit dumb. They could have just let it sit there for a lot more time, but we can't talk about that. All we gotta do is just wait till we get to at least 9,000, and I think just launch it off, so right here. And then it will go up, and then it will start falling back down, and then will immediately start its protocol of die in the atmosphere, where it will explode on the ground. Very epic. Now moving on to the Scud missile. And first used in 1957, the Scud missile was developed by the Russians and has since been exported to numerous nations around the world. So the Scud missile. This time let's use the Vostochny. I cannot freaking speak and I cannot say that Russian word. And we're gonna launch it on these guys over here. Kaboom. That was indeed the rocket. Now moving on to the Explorer 1. Oh wait, I didn't. The Explorer 1. After the Soviet units launched Sputnik 1 in 1957, the United States dashed to match the achievement. And a few months later, the USA launched Juno 1 rocket to launch Explorer 1, which was smaller but far more advanced than Sputnik 1. I'm pretty sure this is a failed launch, but we can still make it go into space our own selves. We just gotta wait a bit. So I think we can drop it now, and then we can just drop stage 2 eventually when we get to at least this level, and then we just wait for release satellite, and then we just launch it. And then it will just fly up for a bit more, and then once it actually gets to its position, it will freeze. Anyway, that is the Explorer 1. Vanguard. The U.S. Navy almost launched the first American satellite into orbit on the Vanguard rocket. But after 2 failures, the Army beat them with Explorer 1. Vanguard 1 is still in orbit, making it the world's oldest artificial satellite. Let's launch it. I'm gonna now mute my mic. Honestly, I just wanted to launch it deep into space for some unknown reason. But anyway, that is the end of Vanguard. We now move on to the X-15. The X-15 was a space plane first tested in 1959. It was flown 199 times until 1968, when the project was finally cancelled. In 1963, Joseph Walker piloted an X-15 to 1,000 kilometers, thus eventually entering space. The X-15 we will now be sending out into space, so let's do this. Though it doesn't really work as planned, we're not going to use that until for special ones. We're just going to put that on special ones. So yeah, so this is just going to say a bit. Anyway, we now have the Minuteman missile. The Minuteman missile, first tested in 1961, is currently the United States' only land-based nuclear ICBM. Warning: usage may lead to severe radiation burns, massive damage, mutual assured destruction, nuclear winners, widespread poverty, the end of the world, and other harmful effects. Use with caution. We're now gonna immediately have a nuclear war today. Good thing we're launching it on these guys because they don't have anyone claiming it, which is good on us, but we're gonna immediately launch it. We have to launch it into space and then it will drop back down. That's how we get it to work. So we just do some of this. I normally just wait for it to get up there. So I just drop stage 1, wait for stage 2 to get in the perfect area. Alrighty, drop stage 2, and then drop stage 3. However, if you realize that does not always work. In fact, it will never work. You have to launch it to its maximum capacity. It's a very specific rocket you have to use. Oh, wait a minute. No, we're just gonna do it because that just launches it into the middle, so we're just gonna do it. It launches it into the middle so that way no one else will get injured and no one else will have to deal with nuclear war. Alright, Ricky Roblox has launched a Scud missile and got destroyed. So stage 1, it's a very specific rocket that we have to use. That's how I see it. So we just wait for stage 2 to go down fully and then drop it. That's what I do most of the time because that plan doesn't work. Which is why what I would do is just drop it when we get to out of orbit or out of Earth's gravity and then immediately just drop it back down, but instead you can't do that for some reason. So I just do this instead. Let's just mute into. As you can see, it immediately moves to its target, and then it drops the bomb, and it starts falling down until eventually, kaboom! It lands on the ground. That is the Minuteman missile. Now moving on to Vostok 1. On April 12, 1961, the USSR beat the United States with a man in space by less than a month. Vostok 1 carried cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin into one successful orbit, after which he ejected from the capsule with a parachute. Let's do it. Now first we're going to have a change of suit. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some of this, some of this. We have to change our nation for this entire thing, so we do some of that, some of this, some of that, and some of this. And now we are truly cosmonauts. Also known as Russian astronauts, I'd say, honestly. That's what I call Russian astronauts. Anyway. We now launch off. I am having I think. It's while my throat was hurting. I'll be right back. Well, I kind of got distracted though, so we're gonna have to do that again, sadly. Rule number 1 for this game is never get distracted on anything, as you will indeed have this experience. So never get distracted at all, or else this will happen to you. I have a feeling that we're just gonna end up falling back down. Yeah, I think we're just falling down slowly. Wait a minute. Nope, we are in orbit. Alright, we're fine. Although we can't really leave it, we are able to look outside the window, or look out here. And that would be the first man in space. For you. We shall now move on to the next rocket by landing this one first. We have landed at our destination. It is now time to head back to our base. And there we go. Our next rocket will be... give me a minute. Our next rocket is the Freedom 7. Soon after the Soviet Union launched a human into orbit with Vostok, the United States matched the achievement by sending Alan Shepard into space on May 5th, 1961, aboard Mercury Redstone rocket. We shall now move on to the next rocket. I will talk to you when we get to the rocket. Now, as you may notice that it doesn't have a stage 2 and instead has a retro pack. This is mainly because it's not meant to stay in the above orbit in Earth for long. It is instead designed to go back down once it reaches space, and thus has the crew inside fall down out of the rocket. We shall now demonstrate this. As you can see, it immediately falls back down after reaching space, which I think thus marks 5,000 as space. And then 9,000, that's just the area where people orbit. I don't know. High orbit, I guess. Anyway, we are now down back on Earth. We shall now head back to our base. Our next rocket is the Freedom of Friendship 7. On February 20th, 1962, John Glenn became the first American to orbit Earth. He completed 3 orbits in the Friendship 7 capsule, which was launched by an Atlas booster. Very irregular boosters, if I say so myself. It will take a while from them. It will take them a while for them to correct their mistake on the boosters, but yeah. We are now officially in space. Now, we cannot really go outside the rocket, but we are allowed to do something known as go back down to Earth, also known as reorbit or re-entry. We shall now use that as our technique to get back down to Earth. Here it goes. We are now approaching the land. Our next ship is the Mariner 2. On August 27th, 1962, the United States launched the first space probe to another planet. Mariner 2 to Venus. Mariner 1 had the same goal, but the rocket lost its guidance controls. Now this is instead a probe, instead of a man-made or manned rocket. So now we should show you what the probe does. They do fix the booster irregularity, by the way. Well, never mind then. Boom. Alright, we're just gonna stop that right there. We're just gonna move on to the next rocket because I really don't like the Mariner 2, honestly. Sorry about that. Anyway, moving on, we have the Voskhod rocket. The Soviet Union launched 2 manned Voskhod spacecrafts, one on October 26, 1964, and the second on March 18, 1965. It was the first multi-crew spacecraft. Alesky and Leonov made the first spacewalk from Voskhod 2. We now move on to the launching. We have now made it into orbit. We are now able to make it able to make it outside of the spacecraft. Let me demonstrate. We are now outside into deep space. As you can see a space shuttle over there. I think another space shuttle over there, and a lot of other stuff. Now, if we go back inside, we have to do the same process all over again. We shall now land back on Earth. We are now back on Earth. We shall now head over to our space base and immediately get to the next rocket. Our next rocket is the Mariner 4. After failure of the Mariner 3 to reach Mars, NASA tried again with the Mariner 4, which was successfully launched on November 28, 1964. It returned close-up images of a cold, lifeless planet. Sorry, no aliens. Yeah, no aliens exist on Mars, but anyway. We shall now use the Mariner 4 rocket. As you can see, it is another probe. And I'm starting to get tired of probes, so frick them, I'm just gonna immediately not use those either. Moving on to the Gemini. Between 1965 and 1966, the United States launched 2 astronaut crews into space in the Gemini program. With the intent of developing space travel techniques, 10 manned missions were launched, all of which were successful. We shall now launch the rocket. We have now arrived in space, and to get outside, I have no idea how to do that. I don't even think you can. So basically, you are stuck in here. At least I think. Oh, never mind then. I am now outside the ship. I have no idea. Oh, I'm inside the ship now. Well, before everything gets... Oh, wait, we forgot to change our... Forget. Anyway, before anything gets worse, we're just gonna land the ship, and we're gonna probably end the video there, as we have not enough time, and my throat is hurting from talking. Well, that shall be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.